Buber says, producing the sound you, saying you, with your vocal cords, does not by any means entail speaking the uncanny basic word. Just because you say you doesn't mean you're actually saying you, right? When he says the word you in language is getting at something deeper than the linguistic phenomenon. And that's why when he goes on to analyze love, that's in that section he's talking about love. And he says, even whispering an amorous you with one's soul is hardly dangerous, as long as in all seriousness one means nothing but experiencing and using, which we'll look at in a second. In other words, if you're Don Giovanni and you were just using this woman that you're taking advantage of, you could say, I love you. I love you. It's a very underlined you, and yet Buber says you're not saying you at all. You're just using the word you, but it's nothing to do with the word you, with the meaning of you. I'm on public transport, I want to get off the bus and this guy's in my way, right? So it is in my way. And you say, hey, you, right? So that's not you. Buber saying not saying you. You're just using the word you, but you're not really using you. So there is such a thing as a deeper usage of the word you. But we do use language to access that deeper usage. In another place on page 111, he says a similar idea. He says the linguistic form here proves nothing. After all, many a spoken you really means it, to which one merely says you from habit, thoughtlessly. So I say you all the time, but I don't really mean you. So there is a special, meaningful, full way of using the word you, which is what Buber is interested in. What's important to keep in mind is, at least in the languages that we're operating with, which includes German and English, Hungarian and Hebrew, there are three, and only three, grammatical persons. It's also called the voice, the grammatical voice. So we have the first, when you study grammar, this is how you learn it, right? First person voice, which is I. When it becomes plural, it's we. But here, Buber's trying to keep things simple, so he's talking about just the I. If we spoke about we might have more complex issues to deal with. Here, it's about a one-on-one relationship between two human beings. So there's I, there's you, which has the archaic, no longer used form in English of thou, but which in German is thou, in fact, du. And then we have it, which is third person, and which grammatically is equivalent to he, she, they, and so on. Even though we modified by plural or singular, so he becomes they, but it's still, the voice is still third person, right? There's only three voices and that's it. There's also declensions, of course, like they, like accusative, nominative, so they becomes them or theirs in the genitive, whatever. But there's only, in terms of actual person and the voices of persons, there's three and only three. And the whole, Buber's whole, his whole outline, or the way he divides up the world into two, is specifically along these three terms. Along these three persons, these three grammatical persons. The I person voice, the you, and the it. See, it's actually kind of nice, even what I just said, I never thought of that before, that when we want to explain it visually, what do I say? I say I, as I'm right here, you, and I usually do it forward, right? You're in front of me, and then he, I have to point to the side. Why am I pointing to the side? Why don't I say, I mean, I could say, oh, he over there, but if I'm talking to you, I'm thinking of you as ahead of me, you're in front of me, got my eyes on you, exactly, and you and I are doing Lashon Hara about him, right? We're talking about that person over there. And that gives us our triangle, right? It gives us our trigonometric situation. The two of us talking about that person over there. That's the triangle right there, in visual space. If we can translate the grammatical space into visual. Yeah?
I mean, there's no line between, I think it is, I mean, it could be from the second and the third person, but it's not like everybody is connected.
Oh, no, I didn't, I didn't mean that, sorry. Yeah, I didn't mean that you are talking to him, that there's another special, I mean, there could be, but that's not the issue here, yeah. I only mean that there's a three positions from which any given sentence takes its coordination. Which again could be all three. I could be saying to you, Ben said, what do you think about him? That's it, I have all three. So, implied. So it's just a question of orientation, of how we orient ourselves. To put it even more, and I'm sorry if this is too technical, Buber probably would hate what I'm about to do here, because it's way too geometrical. But if we take the standard way of doing grammar, which was established in the 2nd century, the very first book of grammar was written by a gentleman named Dionysius Thrax. This is the 2nd century of the Common Era, right? I believe he was a Christian fellow who formulated the first grammar of Greek in order to teach classical Greek, in other words, Homeric Greek, to people who were only familiar with what's called koine. Koine is the more popular common Greek. The New Testament, for example, is written in koine. The New Testament in Greek is quite simple Greek compared to old Homeric Greek. Like English today is very simple compared to Shakespeare or to Chaucer, whatever, very old forms of English. So he wrote a grammar to explain the structure of the Greek language, and he broke down, this is the first time a human being said, as far as I know, I think there's also attempts in India which are separate, whatever. First time in Europe that a thinker sits down to analyze language grammatically. And he established what were for many years, were the classical 8 parts of speech. That's what they were called, 8 parts of speech, which were the noun, the verb, the participle, the article, the pronoun, the preposition, the adverb, and the conjunction, like and, or, right? Those were the 8 parts of speech. Later on, of course, grammarians added much more sophistication to it, much more nuance. But at least it was recognized already at this point that speech has parts. It's made of pieces and parts. And each part belongs to its own class, its own type of part. I could be talking about a phone or a book or a table, and they all 3 are nouns. That's a type of thing, a noun, which is different from running, drinking, loving, which is a verb, and so on. What I want to suggest is that if we map on the typical understanding of grammar, which is in terms of parts of speech or parts of a language, map it onto a geometrical model where we think not in terms of parts of speech, but in terms of planes of speech. In other words, a plane is a 2-dimensional field which can intersect with another plane. And we could say that any given plane, any given aspect of speech, if we think of it as a slice through language, which comes into another, which intersects with another slice of language, and of course it happens in more than one. We have more than one plane here. I'm putting together the pronoun, which is the grammatical person, I, we, you, he, she, it, they, and so on, intersecting with the verb, walk, talk, eat, pray, love, so on. But then if I make it more complex, and I have 3 planes, again, this is all very geometrical, and it's probably too geometrical the way I'm representing it, but here we have a plane which is the gray plane, the green one, and the pink one, all of which intersect at this one point. So all I'm trying to say is that if you look at any given sentence, when we analyze it linguistically, or more conceptually, at a given sentence, a sentence is an intersection between planes of speech. So if I say I, that's one type of sentence where the I carries the sentence, or you if you are at the center. But what I'm saying is that I say pink represents I, you, or he. So depending on where we are in that pink plane, the whole sentence is now shifted to that. And this is what Buber is basically doing. He's shifting everything to the you. The you becomes the new fulcrum, the new turning point of grammar, of grammatical thinking. Back to Buber's text now. He says, basic words. What does he mean by a basic word? What is a basic word? What is a Grundwort? Basic words do not state something that might exist outside of them. By being spoken, they establish a mode of existence. So he's giving us a further definition of what he means by a basic word. When we say, what does that mean to state something that might exist outside? That's a simple descriptive word. If I say cup, Cup, the cup is there, it already exists. I say the word cup corresponds to this, to the actual cup. So the cup is outside of the word cup. And he says a Grundwort, the basic word, doesn't work that way. When I say I, you, or I, thou, there is no I, you out there, there's no I, it out there. By saying the word, I establish it. The word itself establishes the reality.
So it's connection actually. It's not you, it's the connection between us, no?
It establishes the connection. It creates the connection. The connection doesn't exist until I say you.
Yeah.
Right? The you, that's the power of the word, is that the you builds the connection. He uses the word established, which you see it, I put in this gray section, I put the Walter Kaufmann's footnote, which is very useful and interesting. He points out that the word is stiftet. Stiften Sie einen Bestand. They create a situation, a Bestand, an existence, he translates here. Stiften, this is just an allusion that comes to my mind. It's not completely necessary, but it reminds me of a famous line by a poem by Friedrich Hölderlin, which Peter Travne mentioned a few times. It was a big influence in the German poetic scene, also on Martin Heidegger. It's a famous line from his poem Andenken. He says, "Was bleibet, aber stiften die Dichter." What remains is established by the poets. And then Heidegger, who was a big fan of, I'm sorry, I should have translated this into English. I didn't think that. Heidegger understands this. Dichtung ist worthafte Stiftung des Seins. The Dichtung, poetry, is worthafte, is word-heavy Stiftung. That's the word same here. Stiften, right? This word, to establish, is an establishment of being, of reality. What Heidegger meant by that, and perhaps Hölderlin also meant something like that, is that when poets speak, and we're talking here about great poets who create language, that by creating a word, you create the reality. Poetry creates reality. Until you have a word for something, that doesn't mean the thing doesn't exist in some abstract, not abstract. If there's a banana on a tree, and I don't have the word banana yet, it doesn't mean bananas don't exist on the tree. Obviously they exist on the tree. And a monkey can pick a banana without using the word banana. He doesn't need the word banana to enjoy a banana. He can pick it, he can see it, he can pick it, put it in his mouth, eat a banana, feel satisfied. However, the full reality of banana as we understand it, a banana isn't just... A banana for us is not like what it is for a monkey.
Yeah, but this is an idea of the banana, and we have our ideas through language.
Absolutely.
We express ideas only through language. So why we don't have the word banana, we don't have the full concept of banana. Exactly.
So you can rightly say we don't have the concept of banana until we have the word banana. What Hölderlin and Heidegger are getting at is something even further. It's not just that we don't have the concept. In effect, we don't really have a banana. It doesn't mean the bananas aren't there to be eaten, they are. But by not having the concept, or the word, means that we don't have bananas in our human world in which bananas exist, as we know them, which is a banana, something you have to go to Lidl in section number 3, and they cost this much, and they come wrapped like this, and they have a little stempel on it, a little sign that says Chiquita banana, and I'm going to go home, and I'm going to make a banana split from it when I add ice cream. A banana, a monkey doesn't have no ideas about that. For a monkey, a banana doesn't mean Lidl, doesn't mean a banana split, doesn't mean anything, right? It just means, that's it, that's what it has. It's a very simple meaning, right? So if our world, when we create words, when poets create words, we create reality. We build human reality. Doesn't mean we build it from nothing. It's there. The bananas are there. But we build human reality as we know it. And for Buber, the only reason I'm bringing this in is that for Buber, this is quite important here when we're talking about I, you, and I, it. That when we say I, you, or you, when we say it, we're building reality around us. We're establishing, stiften. And he says basic words are spoken with one's being. Again, it's not just a matter of a linguistic usage of a word, but our whole being goes into using one of these basic words as he understands it. When one says you, the I of the word pair I, you is said too. When I say you, I'm bringing my I into that. The I that says I, you. When one says it, the I of the word pair I, it is said too. The basic word I, you can only be spoken with one's whole being. The basic word I, it can never be spoken with one's whole being. Here we're starting to see now a very basic difference, right? When I say you, he says I can't say you, the way as he understands it, with half my existence. And I can't say it with my whole existence. By definition, it means I'm only using half existence. I'm sort of like half there. It's something. When I say you, I'm completely there. That's what you means, to be completely there. That's the difference between I and it. This idea, by the way, I mentioned Hölderlin and Heidegger, but we could just as well go to, again, I'm just mentioning this on the side, we could go to the very earliest sources of Kabbalah. Not the earliest book of Jewish mysticism, but of Kabbalah proper is a book called Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formation, which traditionally is attributed to Avram Avinu, although it only came to be in manuscript form in the 8th century or so, whatever. And in the Sefer Yetzirah, the whole idea of the Sefer Yetzirah, which is a kind of commentary on the first sentence of the Torah, is that the universe is made with language. God says and is, and things are. Vayihi or. Right? God says, Vayihi or, let there be light, and there was light. So the Sefer Yetzirah breaks it down in an alphabetic manner. It goes, that's why I have this whole schematology here of the Aleph Bet. The Sefer Yetzirah discusses how when different letters are combined, then reality is created through the combination of alphabetics. It's a very deep mystical idea. It's not Buber. It's not really what Buber is getting at here, but at least the idea is somewhat similar. That language builds reality.